right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Marlins 9. As always, I'm your host, Jeremiah Geiger, and today I'm joined on the podcast by Gary Sheffield Jr., host of Yankees Unloaded. Gary, thanks for taking the time and coming on.
Jeremiah, what's up, man? I know podcasting for the Marlins got to be tough, but but I appreciate you for having me, and then hopefully, I guess we could talk some Yankees baseball because things are looking up for us.
Definitely. I mean, to your point with the difficulty of podcasting, there's only so much you can do, only so much you can talk about with this team. Complete polar opposites from the Yankees, who right now might be, the favorite in the American League to go on the run and take the pennant. But I want to get your thoughts right now. If you look at the MLB as a whole, what are the biggest storylines to you? Is it the Yankees? Is it Judge? What kind of aspects of the playoff race are you looking at? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, in all seriousness, of course, like when I joke around about the Marlins or talk about the Yankees, baseball right now is in a spot where I really don't think there's a great team. Like we're talking about teams in comparison to the 98 Yankees, some teams you saw with the Boston Red Sox in 2004, 2007, some really good teams that you can rattle off 5 or 6 names that are household names. There are a lot of teams in baseball right now outside of maybe the Philadelphia Phillies where a lot of these teams have to feel like they have a chance. If you're in the playoffs right now, what you saw last year with the Arizona Diamondbacks going to face the Texas Rangers, nobody had that World Series. But you come into the postseason again this year, it feels like another team like that, a team that hasn't won the World Series since 2009, they probably feel like this is the best year they've had since, honestly, an even better opportunity to win than even 2017 where we lost to Houston. So I feel really good about it. I can't say we're coming into the postseason where I'm like, yeah, the Yankees are the favorite, because I don't think baseball works that way. I think you need to be the hottest team and you need to be playing well. That's why I've put such an emphasis on how they play in September. They've got to go out and earn it.
Yeah, I mean, with the expanded playoffs too, it really allows teams to just get in the dance. It's kind of like March Madness, where you get in and you make a run. And I think the biggest factors have to be the bullpen. The bullpen has to be strong. You cannot have a weak bullpen. And I mean, we saw that with Texas last year. We saw that with Arizona. Like Arizona was literally the 6th seed. And in the entire history of baseball, they're not even in the postseason, which I think is great for the sport. I think it brings more fans involved. I think, because you have football season now and a lot of eyes are turned toward football. But when you have more fan bases involved in October, that is where you start getting more involvement. And to your point, I mean, looking at the standings, you're right. There's not that one dominant force, which, I mean, there's still the typical contenders like the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Phillies. But I mean, we've seen teams like the Atlanta Braves suffer injuries and they're in danger of missing out completely. So as football season starts to ramp up, September is still a very important month to pay attention to and watch these teams.
Yeah, and then you see teams in the wild card race. Usually when you see a team in the wild card, like teams have won World Series from the wild card before, but it's never been as prevalent as it is now. The parity in baseball is just on another level. Look at the wild card race right now. Just in the American League, you've got the Orioles, Royals, and Twins. Okay, these are 3 really good baseball teams, very good ball clubs. Baltimore may still win the division. Kansas City still could go win the division. But here's the catch. Every single one of these teams is on a losing streak, every single one of them. So it just kind of goes to show you everything can turn on its head in a second. I've actually seen a few very popular Boston Red Sox podcasters who are still making shows saying that this Red Sox team, which is not a good team, by the way, can still make a wild card. And they are 73-71. So if that tells you anything about the state of baseball, it's wide open. So really, like you said, it's going to come down to, can you close a game? Can you not? Right. And I know better than anybody, we run a show every day for the Yankees. As good as we are, we don't have a closer that anyone could name. Clay Holmes can't close a game. Right now, we're experimenting with Luke Weaver, some other names, right? And so it's just, no one should feel confident coming into October, but everyone should feel like they actually have a puncher's chance. I mean, at least that's true.
Oh, 100%. I mean, the Tigers, for example, they're 3 games out of a wild card spot. And
it's ridiculous.
For all intents and purposes, I mean, the Tigers have been done for the last 2 months, but just based on the standings and the games,
Yeah.
they get on a hot streak, they're still mathematically right there. And then, I mean, it's fascinating. It really is fascinating. I think one of the biggest storylines for me now is in the National League. You kind of look at teams like the Dodgers and the Phillies, but Milwaukee is a team who's right up there with them. And at the end of last season, when they trade away their ace, they trade away Corbin Burns. I mean, they really haven't dropped off anything since last year. And that's a team that kind of historically hasn't performed well, I would say, in October.
Right.
So I'm interested to see the Brewers. And then, of course, to your team, the Yankees. You mentioned Clay Holmes. I mean, another blown save just the other day. Like, how do they manage that? How does Aaron Boone manage that? Because I hate to say it, because my grampy, he was a Yankee fan, diehard, and I do like the Yankees. They're right up there in my top 2-3 teams I like following. But if Aaron Boone doesn't get it done this year, like, is there going to be more intensity of fans saying he's not the guy? Like, what does the fan base kind of feel with that?
Well, the fan base is tense. It's tense in New York, and I can't describe it in any other way. There's a reason we actually started this podcast. We felt like there were a lot of popular podcasts, as you know, in the podcasting space. It's oversaturated. There are a lot of podcasts out there, but no more podcasts run for any other team other than the Yankees. Everyone wants to run our Yankees podcast.
Yeah.
But the crazy part about it is the way people feel about Aaron Boone is that if you go do the job, then we'll clap for you. We'll be excited that you're here. We have no personal gripe to Aaron Boone. Aaron Boone's a great guy. Our family knows the Boones. Like, they're good people. But this is not an industry where you just hire your buddies and people that you like. That's not how this works. You need to go out there and win. And based on some quotes from Derek Jeter, so a lot of prevalent players in Yankees history, they've told you guys, hey, if we don't win a World Series, this is just not a success in any way. There's no consolation prize. We need to win, period. Now, a lot of people see that as spoiled. Some people look at it as a fan base that's living in the past. And I say, touche. If that's the way you want to perceive it, that's perfectly okay. But the reality is, when you take a job as manager for the Yankees, if you don't win World Series championships over a long period of time, you're viable to lose your job. That's just the way this works. So that's the way Yankees fans feel. They feel like if we're going into 2025, 2026, where we're talking about back half of the career, age 34, 35, Aaron Judge, well, the Yankees may be looking at not winning a World Series championship for the better part of 25 years. That can't happen, right? So the Yankees fan base is tense for a reason. It's been a long time since they've won anything. And it's the reason we started our podcast. We've got to see them win.
I mean, it comes with the business of being the Yankees. Like, you look at the NBA, the Lakers, you look at the NFL when they had Tom Brady, the Patriots, they were expected to go out and win. And anything less than that, it's a failure. I mean, for small market teams like the Marlins, which I'm a big fan of, I hate to say it, but you're not expected to do this. The Yankees are expected every year to go out and win. I mean, they've had a winning season. It's been like 25, 30 straight years, I believe.
Yeah, and to prove your point, my dad helped the Marlins win a World Series championship in 1997. Marlins fans still talk about that championship to this day. And
yeah,
it's like he ended up into the core four, right, into the Marlins Hall of Fame. So that's what happens when you're a part of organizations that they can't spend the type of money that you spend. Technically they can because they have billionaire owners, but they don't. It's not the way they do their business. And it is what it is. But the business with Marlins baseball, there's going to be a long turnover period. It's going to take a long time to get back to where you want to go. But hopefully you guys make steps in the right direction. And then, you guys are on for a couple of years. That'd be nice to see.
It would be. It definitely would be. I think since I started watching baseball, the Marlins, excluding the COVID season, last year was the only winning season. And to go from that and then immediately tear it down, it was a punch in the gut for sure. But that does take me into another topic I wanted to talk to you about, is that when the Marlins brought in Peter Bendix, Tampa Bay Rays, obviously the Yankees in the same division as Tampa Bay, you've had to deal with them, and they've been competitive for many, many years. Never could win it all, but they've been in and out of the playoff hunt, the last 10, 15 odd years. But their heavy use of analytics is now kind of making its way to Miami. and I wanted to get your thoughts on the use of analytics within baseball, because I know Brian Cashman is a big proponent of that,
Oh yeah.
for better or for worse. I mean, to me, there's got to be a certain level of backing away from all-in approach on analytics. What do you think about that?
Yeah. So full stop, I'm going to say that analytics is a good thing in baseball, but people need to be reminded. And I think maybe one side more than the other is that people who are pro analytics need to remember that this is a sport. This is baseball. This is not a game that's played on your Texas ruled, calculator.
Right.
This isn't a sport where you can have someone who graduated from Harvard that never touched a baseball and then suddenly they can build a roster for you. And there are a lot of that. There is a lot of that in baseball right now. And for people who are wondering, why is it that this baseball player, who's a bad ball player, he's been on our club for 3 or 4 years, they put him under contract. Why would that happen? I can't understand it. Well, analytics sometimes point people who don't know baseball and they put money in someone's pocket to go do a job that, frankly, nobody that's qualified to tell them they're a good baseball player is putting them in position. So where do I stand on analytics? Some people know that analytics is meant to be a tool and not a way of life. And that's something that the Rays have done well, but something that the Rays haven't done well is that they don't spend money. And that's something that is a prerequisite, is that you invest money into your product. Any big business that really makes a lot of money, at some point or another, there's an owner or some type of investor that pumps a lot of money into the program, and then you get that back from the consumer. That's just how it works. But the issue that you have is that a lot of these teams are trying to get away scot-free. They're trying to use analytics as a tool so that they can save as much money as possible. This is why I told everybody, you guys really shouldn't love that movie, Moneyball. It's a good movie, technically, but it's really teaching people how to save money who already have $1 billion in their pocket. Personally, for me, when I watched the Marlins win the World Series in 97, my first thought is, what are we doing in 98? Can't wait to get back out there. But what actually
Right.
happened? They get rid of the players. They trade away my dad, right? They end up trading him away. Well, why is that occurring? Well, because ownership has figured out the cheapest way for me to do my business, same way the Arizona Diamondbacks did it in their first year. So you're talking about the Diamondbacks who go win the World Series in 01. I was there. Well, they didn't show up in 2003 or 2002 and get excited about what could happen with Randy Johnson or Curt Schilling. No, what they did was said, all right, guys, thank you so much. You did what we paid you to do. See you later. And they ship them out. They're not worried about building a brand, right? Building a business. And that's what this
Right.
is. Fans get excited and it turns into a business. That's what the Yankees baseball is all about. You pump money in, we pump money in, and then we get winning out of it. But right now, we're just kind of pumping money in and buying chicken tenders for $40 and not winning. So it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, that was perfectly said, because I kind of tend to think the same way as you on it, is that it is a tool, but when mismanaged, and you mentioned Moneyball, you have to see that the Athletics, who are about to play in a minor league stadium in Sacramento, I mean, that's what this gets you. It's a cop out. It's a way to excuse poor ownership. I think what it boils down to. And yes, you can win, but there's only, you have to have a lot of luck. I say with Tampa Bay, they've won. They've been in the playoffs. And then they make one extension to Wander Franco, which was a horrible, set of circumstances.
There's no winning. There's no real window there. Because think of it this way: you're a
Right.
Marlins fan, and
Yeah.
you can't wait until the Marlins get back, right? Get back on the horse, get some talent built up in the system, and then you bring them up and they start performing. Well, when you see that, that gets you excited. But here's the crazy part: how you gonna ask Marlins fans to go to the team shop and buy someone's jersey if I don't expect them to be there in 4 years? Why would
Yeah.
I go buy your jersey if Giancarlo Stanton could go get an extension? They gave him that extension so that he could just be a valuable asset that they very well wanted to flip. And the first thing they did was flip him essentially for free to the New York Yankees. The Yankees essentially signed him as a free agent. They got nothing back.
Yeah.
That's a shame. And
It
that's
is a
something
shame.
that really kills baseball, is that for these smaller market teams, people shouldn't just accept we're small market. They should ask more. And when you're an Oakland A's fan and now it's going to be the Sacramento A's and then they're going to run over to Vegas, well, when you get to Las Vegas, what assurance do I have if a really good player, if a Bryce Harper gets drafted to the Vegas A's, should I buy his jersey? Should I become a season ticket holder and expect that my kids who I took to the game, that they're going to see this player in 10 years? Should I have that expectation? History tells us that they're lying to you, that they're just going to trade this player to the Mets, Dodgers, Yankees, or the Red Sox. That's unacceptable. I don't accept that. Obviously, for me as a Yankees fan, we take advantage of that, but that doesn't mean everybody else should accept it.
No, not at all. And people need to start asking these questions. They need to start asking questions. Why aren't we building a core? Why aren't we extending guys? I mean, the biggest connection recently to you guys, the Yankees, Jazz Chisholm Jr. I mean, a perfect example. Perfect example. I mean, face of MLB The Show. He was relatable. He was fun, energetic. He brought the energy every day to Miami. And frankly, the Marlins didn't do anything with it. And it's terrible because I love Jazz. I'm going to be rooting for him in New York as always. But to see Marlins fans especially go, well, bye Jazz. Like, that's it. I mean, take some accountability and ask the journalists, ask the guys covering the team, what is going on? Because this can't keep happening. But, one player that will keep being on the Yankees for a long time is Aaron Judge, who's having an awesome season. Just the face of baseball right now, him and Ohtani, hoping he gets to 60 home runs. But kind of describe your perception of what is, I'm going to say it, the greatest power hitter of our generation right now.
He's just a professional, and he's someone that you've just built expectation for, because now at this point, he's a player. The only question mark he had was his health. Can a 6'7", 282-pound player, can he play every day? Can this guy actually stay on the field for 150 games? And a lot of people were wondering, well, Yankees give him a contract that's going to take him to his age 40 season. Is this the right move? And to which I say, I don't think that Aaron Judge should be judged, no pun intended, on what he does in his age 38 and 39 season. I don't really care. Aaron Judge is the most marketable player in the big leagues outside of probably Shohei Ohtani. And even then, Shohei Ohtani could probably blend into the crowd just as any other Major League Baseball player could. I think Mike Trout could go to Chili's and hardly anyone would notice him. But I promise you, Jeremiah, if Aaron Judge went into a Chili's or an Applebee's anywhere in America, everybody would recognize this guy.
Yeah.
You know exactly who that is. Aaron Judge is the one baseball player that we've seen in a long time in this sport, probably since Derek Jeter, where this guy can't go anywhere. Everyone knows that face, even if you don't know baseball, right? So I know he got rid of the gap tooth. He went and got his nice shiny teeth with that big contract, but everyone knows who Aaron Judge is, and that's the really good thing about this. He's the most marketable player in the game, and obviously Ohtani's probably the most popular player in the world, given the fact you've got the international thing working. But as far as I'm concerned, this Aaron Judge-Yankees marriage is just perfect.
Oh, it's great. I mean, what better team to play for than New York? I mean, the market, the media, everything is there, and he is the spotlight. And I love seeing him do well because he's a great guy. He's a great person to root for kids, for all fans alike. Last question, Gary, before I let you get out of here. Former friend, old friend of the Marlins, Giancarlo Stanton. He's on his way to 500 home runs, and there's been kind of a debate among Marlins fans. Will Giancarlo Stanton, when it's all said and done, make the Hall of Fame? I have an opinion where if he makes it to 500 home runs, I don't see how you can reasonably leave him out of the Hall. I wanted to get your perspective on that.
I think that if you do make it to 500 home runs, what it does say when you have those counting stats, because baseball is a sport where counting stats do matter, probably more than any other sport.
Definitely.
And what it proves, getting to 500 home runs, is that you had longevity and you were consistently a great player in this league. I mean, you averaged 25 homers for 20 years and you end up at 500 jacks. That's a Hall of Famer. So as far as I'm concerned with Giancarlo Stanton, injuries, of course, killed any plan of him ending up in the 600s or 700s, and that's a shame. But the difference between a guy having 510 homers and a dude who has 700, they're both Hall of Famers. Let's be clear. Like, obviously, you might say there's a different tier of Hall of Fame, and that's all fine by me. But Giancarlo Stanton, when he's on the field, he's a great player. He just hasn't been able to stay healthy, and that's unfortunate. But as far as I'm concerned, he passes 500 home runs. And Jeremiah, I guess I'll use some quotes that people use for me with my dad. They'll say, yeah, your dad's a Hall of Famer. And what do they say? But we have allegations of steroid use and all types of stuff like that. Obviously, they have no proof of that. But Giancarlo Stanton has never had even a rumor about steroid use. This guy has played it clean, and obviously so did my dad, but no one's even thought to come up with a rumor with Giancarlo, in large part because they have such extensive testing now, and that's a good thing for Giancarlo Stanton. So as far as I'm concerned, Giancarlo Stanton should be in Cooperstown at some point someday. He just got to finish strong.
100%. 100%. Well, Gary, it's been a pleasure talking with you on the podcast. I want to thank you again for coming on, and enjoy the Yankees as they make their way to another postseason and hopefully a World Series berth. Thank you again.
Yeah, I probably won't enjoy it unless we actually go win something. But Jeremiah, I appreciate you, and good luck with your show.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man.
Ladies and gentlemen, Gary Sheffield Jr. on the podcast. Good to branch out. It's good to branch out and talk about some other teams, talk about the whole scope of baseball. You know, I wanted to bring Gary on the show, obviously, you know, the son of Gary Sheffield Sr., who was a World Series Marlins hero, bringing that 97 championship over for the first World Series in Marlins history. So great to talk to him. Great stuff. Great stuff over there at Yankees Unloaded, covering the team who, you know, is right in the thick of it, right in the thick of it. And I will be rooting for with all my heart because, you know, just a few weeks ago, I lost my grandfather. I lost my grampy, who was a Yankees fan his entire life and unfortunately passed away. It's been tough. It's been tough, but I wanted to put that out there. And I know he's happy. I know he's watching and he's proud of me, proud of what I'm doing. But, you know, the Yankees always have to have a soft spot in my heart. When I was a little kid, I got a Derek Jeter shirt. He gave me a Derek Jeter shirt when I was probably 3, 4, 5 years old. And I wore it out, and I wore it out. So I always liked Derek Jeter, always liked the Yankees. Obviously, they're not my favorite team, but they are a team I follow. I love watching Judge, love watching Stanton. And, you know, watching the Yankees for the rest of my life, I will always think about my grampy. So with that today, guys, that is going to wrap it up with this episode of Marlins 9. As always, subscribe to the YouTube, listen on Spotify, Apple, share the podcast. Please share the podcast. I can't do this without you guys trying to build this. I'm confident in what I do, but I love hearing your feedback. Let me know what I can do better. Let me know what topics you would like to hear me talk about. And with that, guys, let's go fish.